Hey, what's up, everybody? In professional practice, a mock-up isn't just a placeholder. It can be a really valuable sales tool. If your perspective is off, like you see in this picture here, or your textures look maybe pasted on, the illusion's going to be broken and it's going to really hurt the point of sale. Today, we're going to be doing a bit of a masterclass on product mockups in Adobe Photoshop. We're going to look into the perspective warp tool. We're going to look at why smart objects are non-negotiable for client workflows. And I'm going to show you a little bit of that secret sauce of realistic blending using cylinder warps and blend if sliders. So let's go ahead and adjust this image. Now, oftentimes we're given product photography that we had no control of taking the photo or what perspective it was in. So you can see this is a really nice photo, but it doesn't match the floor we're attempting to mock it up in. So what do? Well, that's where the perspective warp comes in. We need this package to actually look like it's working on the floor. So for the setup, we're going to go to Edit, and we're going to go to Perspective Warp. Now, this is a very easy tool. You're going to just start drawing rectangles. And when you draw a rectangle, you're going to use these pins, and you're going to pin it to the various corners of your piece. So that's 1. And then this will be 2. So we'll drag that here. You can see once you start drawing more, you're going to get them to snap to each other. Very, very user-friendly. So I just drag this, and when it gets close, boom, it will snap, and it attached to that. And I'm basically creating this cage of distortion. And I want to double check just to make sure everything's exactly where I want it. Next steps. Let's hit enter. It doesn't look like much happened. But now that we've switched to kind of warp mode, we were in layout mode, now we're in warp mode, we can go ahead and adjust the different elements. So we can automatically straighten near vertical lines. So if we hit some of these buttons, this will actually flatten our image, which is kind of cool. Let me undo that real quick. But what we're looking for is we're going to pull these pins and we're going to match the perspective of our floor. And so the really great part about this is I want you to see how easy this is to match. Now, you still have to have a little bit of a knowledge of basic perspective. But overall, check that out. Even if this had a texture on it, we'd have a pretty good idea of what we're creating. So you can kind of see now that we've kind of flattened out that box. We've created it. Now, if we need to make this a little bit wider, we want to obviously adjust this. If you had a texture on it, it'd be a little easier to kind of see what your elements are doing, but we'll just kind of make these more vertical. Lovely. And we'll hit the enter key, and there you have it. We now have a great matched perspective. As artists and designers, yes, it's great to have a quick fix, but we really ultimately want that artistic control. So this allows you to still understand and play with the foreshortening. We can make the product look more heroic or dramatic. And this is something that kind of auto matching tools tend to struggle with because they don't really know our ultimate vision. And so here you can see this is really, really nice. I can always hit that harmonize tool. Let's see what that does. Give it a few seconds. The shadowing getting a little bit more involved. And there you have it. All right, so let's move on to the next one. What if we want to put a label on a box? Okay, so we have our box and we have our label. Now, typically we would hit Command or Control T or go to Edit, Free Transform, and we could sometimes right click and use the different perspective tools. But what if there's a change on this label? What if we want to edit it down the road? All right, so this is where smart objects come in. Let's go ahead and cancel that. And let's go over to our label layer, and we're going to right click and we're going to look for Convert to Smart Object. Why? Because if your client changes their mind on a logo or some sort of typography, you don't want to try to edit a distorted image. You just want to swap it out, or you want to, again, just make the necessary edits really quickly. So we're going to go ahead and convert this to a smart object. All right, now that we have that smart object, we're going to hit Control T. I'm going to right click and we're going to use the distort key here. And we're going to just go ahead and align this to our perspective. Now we want to be mindful of that original proportion, but once you get it kind of settled, you can kind of see using my perspective, I have a pretty good idea of where that goes, and I hit enter. Okay, now the magic. It doesn't look like I did much different than the original blending, but here's the secret sauce. Because it is in a smart object, if I double click this smart object layer, it comes out completely fixed. So if I wanted to go ahead and add a letter here, so if I wanted to add, let's say, just randomly, we'll add the letter B. And we wanted to put B. We forgot the wrong shipping number here. And if I hit Control Save, you guessed it, boom, that letter B is going to be on the element. How cool is that? It maintains that non-destructive editing. With a few things like adding drop shadows, obviously we don't want the distance to be that much. You can really make some realistic elements in a click of a button. So again, smart objects are the way to go. We can use smart objects even further with labels, and especially with something that's not a box. So you want to add a finishing touch. You want to make your graphic design of a label fit something like this wine bottle. Great, let's do the same process. Let's right click and preserve that editability with the convert to smart objects. Let's hit Command or Control T, and let's just scale this down. Now you'll see a lot of mockup tutorials just end here. They may even hit like multiply and call it a day. But what I like to do is take it to that next step. Because it's a smart object and I know I can go back and edit that file, if I right click and I go to warp, it's going to give me warp. Now, before I'd have to warp it like this and it looks really funky, but I have a cylinder. So I'm going to go to my warp type at the top of my screen, go down to cylinder, and we're going to just kind of pull this up, pull this down, and notice what it's doing. It's actually matching the perspective and the contour of that warp. So it's subtle, but it gives you a really great element. Hit enter here and hit done. That looks really nice. We could set this to something like a multiply or a screen, and we could go through. This linear dodge looks rather nice, but as you can see, really, really nicely done. Fits that label immediately. Let's take that to the next level. So you can see I've done a similar process here, and we have that original label. So walk you through that one more time. But before we begin, let's right click and make that into its smart object. And now we can hit that Control T. I'm going to hold my Control key down, and I'm not going to match the curvature just yet. I'm going to just kind of get it to make sure that the label is touching all sides here. I don't want it overhanging. So that actually looks rather nice here. I'm going to straighten that up just ever so slightly. Now, Control T, right click, warp, go up to the top, set it to that cylinder. And once you have cylinder, right click, warp, go to the top, set it to cylinder. And now, and it's all about that subtlety, y'all. Just ever so slightly get that to match in its perspective. Perfect. All right, so we have this here. I'm going to hit the done key, but you'll notice it kind of stands out a little bit too much. We're not getting the sheen, and these elements aren't matching. So let's use some blend modes. I'm going to go to normal, and I'm going to set this to either multiply. That works just fine. And I'm going to go to the FX blend modes and choose blending options. In blending options, I want you to notice the blend if, and you have sliders here. Now these sliders are very rarely used by new designers because they're almost afraid of what they will do. So for instance, the current layer, if I want to match that background color, I can just pull that in. And if I want to start pulling in some of the shine from the underlying layer, I can break these little handles. See how that's too much? If I hold the Alt or Option key, I can break that handle and pull it down. What this does is gives us a lot more natural look to that label. And once again, if I just double click in that smart object, I can go ahead and I can put my product name right in the center here, hit Control S, go back, and there it is. Fully non-destructive. So perspective, smart objects, and high-end blending, these are the tools to make your work go from a student project to an industry-ready portfolio standard. I love to see these in portfolios. They're really easy to do. You don't need to have the perfect camera or the perfect photo. All right, everybody, if this helped you level up your Photoshop game, go ahead and do me a favor and hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you in our next Tech Talk.